Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining another edition of Reporter's Notebook. My name is Kelsey O'Donnell, joined here today by Emily Severidge, one of our other digital reporters. Emily, welcome.
Hi, Kelsey. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, if this is your first time joining for Reporter's Notebook, this is a time where WNCT reporters, sometimes producers, sometimes digital managers will hop on here and kind of give a rundown about what it's like to really work day to day in the media. So today, Emily was out. She was our reporter today. She will have content tonight on our broadcast and as well online at WNCT.com. Emily, you were talking about budgeting within the postal workforce, excuse me. Kind of run me through what happened today.
Right. So there's been a conversation going on for a while. The United States Postal Service has been having budget issues for quite a while. And obviously, like many other businesses, when the coronavirus pandemic hit, it drastically damaged their budget.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of Postal Service officers or officials are saying that, sometime between July and the end of September, they're expecting to completely run out of money within the federal Postal Service. So, this is a big deal. I mean, people rely on the U.S. Postal Service. Obviously, there's other, mail carriers and things like that, but one of the things I noted in my story is, the U.S. Postal Service is one of those mail services that really goes out of their way to go into more rural communities or communities that, don't have as lot of money as other areas do, where other mail carriers don't necessarily do that. So this is really a national postal service that is in jeopardy right now. And so, unfortunately, I wasn't really able to talk to anyone locally who worked at one of the post offices, but I was able to talk to a few people on the street today going into the post office. So I was able to interview one woman who was willing to be on camera with me today. If you're going to get mail, you're in sweats, you're not really ready for camera. So I got one really sweet woman who was able to talk with me, and she was saying, she had been noticing in the past couple of weeks, and she's a woman in Winterville, which is, a smaller community than Greenville is. And she'd been noticing for a couple of weeks that she wasn't getting as much mail as she usually did. And so she didn't think much on it. But then on Friday, Saturday, and now Monday, she did not get any mail at all. So she was going into the post office today to try to figure out, what's going on with my packages. Are they delayed? Did something happen to them? Because she didn't know. And it's not really, these issues with the Postal Service are not really something that people are talking about. So people aren't aware. And one of the decisions that the new General Post, what's his official Postmaster General Louis DeJoy, he was appointed by Donald J. Trump, and he is saying that they're trying to figure out a plan or something to fix these setbacks within the financial budget. But they're kind of looking at how to do that, especially with, are you going to cut employees? They're talking about maybe just not sending delivery trucks out on certain days of the week to try to save money that way. But when that happens, people aren't getting their bills in the mail on the correct date. People aren't getting their mail on the right dates. It's delayed. And so that's a big deal for anybody in the community, especially, elderly people like the woman I was speaking to. They kind of rely on the mail for a lot of the things that they do because they don't get out of the house a lot. They expect all their bills in the mail. They expect, cards from people. So there would be a really big hit to, people in different communities if this were to be something that doesn't get resolved soon.
Right. It has a huge impact. You don't realize how much the coronavirus is actually impacting until, I never would have thought to think of the postal workers. I guess it's because I'm so in my own lane right now. I would say it's not the best thing to say, but I think this is a really interesting story that you brought to light. Now, how did you kind of come up with this idea? I'm not sure. Tell people how we go about finding story ideas.
Right. So this one was actually brought to my attention. I had another story earlier today that, fell through, didn't work out. And that happens sometimes. So you kind of have to have a backup plan and maybe another backup plan. So this was actually one that our executive producer, Matt Campbell, gave to me or sent to me. I'm saying, hey, you should really look into this. And it was an Associated Press article all about this. And I was like shocked when I was reading it. I mean, it's a really great article. I am going to link it in my online originals as well, because it just gives great statistics for people who are more into the story. But I was shocked. I mean, I hadn't heard about this at all. This was the first time hearing about this. And, the Postal Service is historical, number one, in our country. And it's a huge business. It's a huge thing for people to, receive mail, and there's so many different things changed and things like that. So it just kind of blew my mind that this is something that could happen to a business like this. You think small businesses during the pandemic, like they're definitely going to suffer, and that's horrible, but you don't really think about businesses like the post office of all. And what I found so interesting is, so Congress has been trying, some of the Democrats in Congress have been pushing for a $25 million assistance package for the Postal Service that they want included in the next stimulus package. But, Congress right now is more heavily Republican, and right now they are kind of holding up that bill, holding up that measure. They don't want to pass it just yet. And they've also, Congress as a whole did approve a $10 million credit line for the United States Postal Service. But Trump's administration has restrictions on it that are keeping that money from being used at this time, because of his restrictions with the Postal Service in general. Right now, especially due to he's, worried about mail-in ballots and things like that. So he's kind of holding off. Congress and the administration are really kind of holding off right now on the next step on what they're going to do about trying to save the post office. And it's kind of just crazy to me, really. And there were tons of people, again, I said only one woman was willing to speak to me on camera, but there were tons of people who, I would stop people and just ask, like, hey, are you having any problems with, delayed delivery services or anything like that? And they're like, yeah, like, how did you know that? Like, people don't know what's going on. They don't know that it's an actual national issue. They just think like, oh, my mail's like a little late. But, this is just kind of the starting point. This is like the very beginning of the trickle effect of what's going to happen if this continues. Right. And, keep getting withheld in Congress, and they're not getting passed. And we're going to start seeing it, especially in these smaller communities first. We're not going to see it, happening in Greenville right away. We're not going to see it happening in Raleigh right away, just because those are bigger businesses essentially for post offices. And, they have more employees already. They already have more budget. They already have more resources than these smaller towns. So these smaller towns are going to be affected pretty drastically, pretty fast. Okay. And just that by the end of September, this is something that could maybe not exist anymore. Maybe like they're just kind of stuck. That's crazy. I mean, I just think this is a crazy story.
I agree. I don't know. This is the first time it was brought to my attention. So you're bringing light to me. I'm sure there are a bunch of other viewers out there that are like, wow, actually, I was having some issues. And this kind of helps reassure the reason behind that. Not really reassure, but give them a reason to be like, okay, like this is normal, so to speak, right now.
Right. It's just so crazy.
All right.
All the things with the coronavirus.
What'd you say?
I said all the things with the coronavirus.
Yes, we have.
It's just.
If you guys are watching right now, there is a 3-second lag. So since Emily is at home, it takes about 3 minutes for everything to come back. So I'm hearing it in a little bit of a delay. So just to give everyone kind of an idea behind the scenes of what goes on. But again, you can find Emily's full story later on tonight on WNCT.com under the features tab. There is an online original tab, another one under there. Go ahead and click on that and you will find all of our online originals, as well as it will be on our broadcast tonight. So thank you so much for tuning tuning in for another edition of Reporter's Notebook. Emily, thank you so much for joining, and have a great night, everyone.